Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 50 of Superannuated Starman. I'm your host, Sean Ryan, and as always, I'm joined by Chris Duerksen
Always.
and Cory Braucks.
Nah, it's a falsehood.
Oh, usually I'm joined by Chris Duerksen. There's been a couple episodes where he hasn't joined us.
I've been slipping.
You have been slipping, brother, but you're here with us. We almost recorded this without you, but we did get you.
I appreciate the delay. The wife and I have been very sick.
Everybody's been very sick. And if you're listening to this now, you know that we didn't release our normal Christmas/holiday episode where we watch a film or a video game related film and we talk about it.
And that was my fault because I was sick and super busy at work.
But we got through it, and instead of a video game film or a video game cartoon or series or something like that, instead, we're going to talk about a film that was later turned into a video game, and that is GoldenEye. But another special thing about this is that this is episode 50. We did have an episode 0.
Holy smokes.
It was more of a test run more than anything, but we have 50 full-fledged episodes. We do have some side quests and even an interview with a game developer out there.
That was still really fun.
It was. I want to do more of those, yeah. And guys, this has been an amazing experience, and I hope that we continue to do this well into the next year and beyond.
To infinity and beyond.
No. Disney will come after us.
That's what we'll do next Christmas. We'll play Toy Story and then watch the movie.
Those games.
Listen, I already had to ask them not to.
We already played that game.
Are not great. We didn't play Toy Story.
Game?
We didn't?
We didn't play Toy Story, no.
No.
Okay, add that to the list because that game was great.
Great.
What's wrong with you? Was it the Toy Story game? Was that the one where you like open up toy boxes and the shark's in there and he's like, "Look, I'm a cowboy. Howdy, howdy, howdy."
I don't remember. I just remember.
I mean, that's in the film.
But he does that in the game too, and he's like warmer, colder, ice cold, hot, and it's like a children's game.
I don't remember any of that.
Mm-mm.
But that said, let's move on and discuss the history of GoldenEye. I'm not going to be discussing the film here, and instead, I'm only going to be talking about the game itself. Developed by Rare and published by Nintendo, GoldenEye 007 is based on the 1995 James Bond film GoldenEye, starring Pierce Brosnan. When I say GoldenEye, unless I specifically state that I'm talking about the film, I'm talking about the game, so I hope it doesn't get too confusing. GoldenEye was released in Japan on August 23, 1997, and 2 days later in North America. The game was set to be released shortly before the film Tomorrow Never Dies, another in the James Bond series and the second to star Pierce Brosnan. Development began on GoldenEye in 1995, led by Martin Hollis, who had previously worked on Killer Instinct. He would go on to fill both the director and the producer roles. The game was originally meant to be a 2D platformer for the Super Nintendo, but Hollis had suggested a 3D shooter for Nintendo's upcoming N64. An insanely ambitious idea considering this was 1995 and the N64 wouldn't even release in Japan until June of 1996. Concerned about how difficult of a project this could be for such an inexperienced team, the concept of an on-rail shooter a la Virtua Cop was thrown around, but Hollis was insistent on a more 3D environment, and so development began. The team would visit the studios of the film several times to collect photographs and blueprints of the sets, although there are scenes of the game or sequences that aren't seen in the film. They wanted to use the reference materials to add a sense of authenticity to their game. That authenticity bled into the game itself as well, where the team wanted to ensure that the player received feedback from the environment. This led to a reactive environment where objects in the level actually responded to the player. That is, certain things could be blown up or even glass could be destroyed. The player would also see bullet marks on the walls. The team even envisioned a concept involving realistic weapon reloading that would require the player to remove the rumble pack and reinsert it to simulate loading a magazine. Before mission objectives were implemented, the levels were designed with the idea of creating interesting spaces. This unplanned approach led to many levels having rooms that have no relevance to the level itself, giving the space a more realistic feeling. This meant that there were aspects of the game design that revolved around fun and creativity instead of realism. An example of this is that enemies cannot see through glass windows, encouraging the player to spy on enemies to get a sense of their patterns, making the player feel a little bit more like a true spy. The team didn't originally have access to a development kit, so the team had to estimate the capabilities of the upcoming console. This went so far as using a modified Sega Saturn controller early on for playtesting. Development was a little different than you would expect in the studio today. Believing that they had access to anything in the James Bond franchise, early builds had Sean Connery as a playable character, but this was removed after discovering that they in fact did not have permission to everything in the James Bond universe, and that they were unable to secure permission for his likeness. Probably the most memorable part of GoldenEye, the multiplayer, was an afterthought. Hollis hired a second programmer, Steve Ellis, who programmed the cheat codes and was responsible for other areas of the game's code. However, he is mostly remembered for implementing the multiplayer mode. David Doak, a designer, would later go on to say that, quote, Ellis sat in a room with all the code written for a single-player game and turned GoldenEye into a multiplayer game. Expectations for GoldenEye were low, being a licensed game coming out 2 years after the release of the film and after a poor showing at the '97 E3. However, those expectations were blown away after the game's release. In 1998, the game had sold over 2 million copies, and by 2001, it had sold well over 7 million. GoldenEye is the third best-selling N64 game behind Super Mario 64 and then Mario Kart 64. For additional comparison, the game grossed over $250 million worldwide. That is 70% of the film's box office, despite having less than 4% of the film's budget. Frequently cited as one of the greatest video games of all time and ranking in the top 100 of several current lists, GoldenEye sits with a 96 out of 100 on Metacritic. GoldenEye has a legacy that extends far beyond the James Bond franchise. The game engine in GoldenEye was improved and its spiritual successor, Perfect Dark, was born. Additionally, there was a game of the same name released in 2010 on the Nintendo DS, Wii, PlayStation 3, and Xbox 360 as a remake of the 1997 game and a reimagining of the 1995 film. If you want to play GoldenEye 64 today, it's available through the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack and includes its own online multiplayer. Guys, that's all I have, so let's move on and enjoy some of this great music, and when we come back, we're going to talk about what it was like playing GoldenEye back in the 90s. Welcome back, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the history segment. What we're going to talk about now is our history, not only with the game GoldenEye 007, but we're going to talk about what it was like watching the film back in the day. Chris, why don't you start us off and talk about your memories of either the film or the game and just kind of go from there?
Like, if we're going to start with back in the day, the film came out first. The game came out, what, like 9 months after the film, or it came out
I
a
don't know.
while?
When did do you have the date for the game release, Sean? Since, that whole history segment just flew
Yeah.
by.
GoldenEye released in Japan on August 23rd of 1997.
Okay, so
And
it's
2 days
almost a
later in
year.
North America.
It's almost a year.
Because, yeah, the game came out like just a few months before the next James Bond film after that. Like, it was super delayed.
The film came out in 1995, and the game was released in August of 1997.
And so let's talk about the film. When that movie came out, everybody I knew was all about James Bond in the 90s. Like, my mom was all about that.
I mean, it's a popular franchise.
Yeah, huge
This is
franchise.
the rebooting, roughly, though, or not rebooting, but this is Pierce Brosnan is what, the third Bond or fourth?
Fourth, fifth, I don't know.
Well, because you had
Worst.
Sean Connery, you had that one guy for like one.
I mean, we can't agree he's the worst one, right?
Oh, yeah, we can absolutely agree he's the worst one.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, so when this movie came out,
well, no, Timothy Dalton's honestly the worst one because he was in it for one movie. and he was not great.
come on, like you
Have
watched
you
this
seen
movie.
License to Kill? It's not
Have
a
you
great
seen
film.
GoldenEye?
Yes, I have. That's why they made 3 of them.
Oh. Anyways,
Timothy Dalton's not a good James Bond, but yeah, it was it was Roger Moore, Sean Connery, Timothy Dalton, Pierce Brosnan, and Daniel Craig were like the big ones.
okay, but anyways, so when this movie came out, I remember pretty much it was the talk of every adult. And
Speaking of James,
that's junior high for us, wasn't it?
Yeah, for us.
And-
Well, 1995, we were in 5th grade.
Yeah. So I remember seeing it and thinking it was cool and all that jazz. I really don't. Besides just the hype from it, I don't have a whole lot of memories. I obviously I've seen the movie probably, a handful of times.
Really?
then have
Because your
never-
mother watched it? Or
Yeah,
you said that
my
your mother
mom-
really was interested. But
Yeah. She was into all those cheesy action films with catch lines like and Mission Impossible and all that stuff.
Did
So-
you see it in theater or only at home, like on VHS?
I'm sure I probably saw it in theaters.
Crazy.
My mom and I went to go see a lot of movies. That was like our thing. That was actually, there's a good chance I probably saw James Bond on Christmas Day in the theaters, because that was one of our traditions, is that my mom and I would go to movie theaters on Christmas Day and catch a flick. So yes, I probably saw this in theaters. I don't really remember. I don't remember. I don't want to cut ahead to. I'm actually, you know what? Can you mind if I just cut ahead to what I think of it now?
well, you're doing your business for the movie, so do whatever you're gonna do for the movie.
Yeah, so I don't remember this movie being as bad as it is. Watching it now, like, oh my gosh,
Did you like it as a kid?
I didn't think it was bad. It's not like it was definitely not one of my go-to movies where if I was home at six, like it was not worth talking about to anybody. Like, I don't know, it's just one of those junk movies that was, dumb entertainment. It's James Bond. Like, you gotta give it a little bit of credit just because of the fact that it is James Bond. But it was definitely not, like, I would have never considered it one of my favorite movies or anything like that. But I do remember seeing it, and I'm sure my mom loved it when it came out. Did you see it as a kid?
Me? No,
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure you did it. You missed. I thought it's a James Bond. Like, everybody had to have seen it when it came out.
I never saw GoldenEye when I was younger. I've never seen it until just a few weeks ago. When we decided, when we decided that we're going to watch the film and play the game. And I'm going to save my thoughts for later when it comes to
That's fine.
When it comes to the rewatch. But
Oh, are we not just rolling everything into one?
If you want, you know
I
what?
think
Yeah,
we
we could do that.
I
Might
mean,
as
like
well.
it's
We're
a
just kinda
holiday
riffing?
episode. We're
Alright.
just shooting the so
That works. Okay, so yeah, I'll talk about my thoughts today then. You said like you got to give it some credit. No, and here's why. Okay, so Demolition Man with Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes came out in 1993.
was it that
I just
late?
meant I should say I don't want to say credit, but you at least gotta give it the respect of a
I
James
didn't-
Bond movie.
I didn't know Demolition Man came. I thought that was like '89. Honestly,
No, it's a 1993 film, which is super
That's
weird
crazy.
because like in the
It
first
fe- doesn't
intro,
it
it's
feel like
like
it came out in like 1987 or something?
it does feel older, and in like the first like few minutes, I think it's been a while since I've seen it, but it's like Los Angeles, 1998. It's like it's only a
Oh.
couple
Yeah.
hours away, like, and everything was on fire, and it was like a hellscape, and that was only like 5 years from the actual date in the real world. So I always thought that was weird. But my point is that is an awesome action film where this was just irredeemable. It was not fun to watch. It was just so campy. Everything about
Oh
it
my
was
gosh.
horrible.
John, what happens to be your boggle?
Okay, we need to talk about Demolition Man. And if there's a video game tie-in, maybe that's what we do next year. But
We're doing Toy Story.
No,
Man.
we're not talking about Toy Story, but talking about this. When I played the N64 game and you see like the enemies just kind of flop about after you kill them, I was like, okay, it's a video game. That's normal for the time. I was shocked.
That was
When
not
I-
normal for the time. Yeah.
I was shocked to watch the film and see that.
See the enemies ragdolling.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. James Bond is shooting them, and then they just kind of flop and they go crazy
Flop
like
over,
they're like they're footballers. It made no sense. It was so campy and just bad. I
Oh my
didn't
gosh.
like
For the
it.
American listeners, when Sean says footballers, he means soccer.
Yeah. But the point is, everything about this was just awful. It was horrible. Pierce Brosnan should never have disgraced the James Bond universe because that's what he did.
Mm.
I loved him so much getting hit in the head with a lime and
Yes. Oh, it's a drive-by fruiting.
It's a run by fruiting day.
He should stay in films like that. That's where he doesn't shine, but that's where he can just be. But he is not James Bond.
You went off on Pierce Brosnan.
He
Man.
sucks. He's not a good actor.
And the
And
worst part is that for us, because GoldenEye I think was his first James Bond film, right?
Yes.
That was
And then it was what? Tomorrow Never
Tomorrow
Dies
Never
and
Dies.
Diamonds Are
so
Forever.
like what I was saying, like you have to give this film respect because it's a James Bond movie because it's James Bond. Like I thought everybody has seen James Bond movies. This was our first introduction to James Bond, like to modern James Bond was this movie. So we got robbed.
Oh no, he was in Die Another Day too. So he made
3, right?
four?
4?
Yeah, because it was GoldenEye, Tomorrow Never Dies, The World Is Not Enough, and Die Another Day. So he may have seen 4 of them.
that is a travesty. That is an absolute travesty because he sucks as an actor. He's not good. He is not James Bond. It's just terrible.
Mm-hmm.
It is honest to God just terrible. And when you say like this is the introduction to the modern James Bond, I guess at the time in the mid 90s, but my parents were really into the original James Bond, James Bond.
Oh yeah, like I saw plenty of the Sean Connery films growing up just because my father loves the franchise.
Same.
We had the novels floating around the house, like.
See, and that's how it was. Like my mom loves movies, and James Bond is James. Like I keep referring. Like I don't know how else to describe it as saying James Bond is James Bond. Like it's famous for being itself. So this movie was just so I don't know pre-hyped going into it.
Well, yeah, it was riding on the back of
Yeah.
a very established
Exactly.
franchise. It's a very illustrious film cinema thing.
And I think that if that film had come out without the legacy of that Sean Connery had built.
Oh,
That film
And Roger
would
Moore.
not have ever had a sequel, and it sure as hell would not have gotten 3 additional sequels.
yeah.
Well, and so I would like to interject one thing though. This is 95. This, we're watching this in modern day. It's not a great film by any stretch
Yeah,
of the
but he already
imagination.
compared it to
This
Demolition Man.
no, but listen. So this is tail end of the peak 80s action genre, right? So you're coming off of movies like Predator and Alien and Commando and Terminator. So there's a lot of people that like just love these mindless action films where you can just shut your brain off, watch a bunch of stuff explode,
Mhm.
and there's a guy smoking a cigar walking away from a fireball, and it's a great time. And you don't have to do much, right? You just watch the shiny colors blow up. And
Exactly.
honestly, like they really leaned into that with these Pierce Brosnan films because if you watch even like the older ones or even some of the newer ones, like Daniel Craig does a lot of explosions too. I think that's kind of expected. But a lot of the older films, James Bond is a secret agent. He is this covert operative. There's a lot of espionage. There's a lot of like cool little gadgets that do sneaky things. He's got the little laser watch and everything. And they really leaned into like the Michael Bay helicopter sunset kind of explosion
They're supposed to be family
franchise
entertainment
feeling.
action movies.
Yeah, it was just this big action film. So like in terms of James Bond, it's a it's a bad James Bond movie. In terms of like mid 90s action, it's like a I don't know, a B minus or a C plus somewhere in there. It's not terrible. And it like put butts in seats and a lot of people bought popcorn to see like the handsome Irishman be smarmy and like shoot Russians, you know?
Okay, I understand where you're coming from, but I just can't buy it because Chris mentioned Mission Impossible, which the first one came out a year later in 1996 with Tom Cruise, and that is an infinitely better
Mhm.
spy film. It is
Yeah,
so
I
much
agree
better.
with you. I'm not saying that Mission Impossible is not a better movie than GoldenEye. I'm just saying that this is the style of film they went with, and I think like I said, it's the tail end of that kind of franchise where they were like, "All right, let's do another like big explosion, like True Lies." It's like we'll do like a 2 hour film, bunch of
It's
explosions. We'll
purposely
have like
campy
the
because
character
that's what
everybody
James Bond
knows.
movies
Yeah,
are.
it's real campy and dumb.
I don't know. Maybe it's because I never saw it back in the day that I have these feelings that I do, or lack of feelings. Because you talked about Terminator. How about Terminator 2, which came out in
Terminator 2 is a great
1991,
film.
4 years before this?
I thought it was 92.
I thought it was 91.
Judgment Day came out in 91. You're correct.
Regardless, it's still several years before this, and the special effects are leaps and bounds beyond what you see in this film. There is no
Yeah, well,
reason
James
for it to
Cameron
be
is
so
also
bad.
an incredibly autistic guy that does a lot of great work.
Yep.
Yeah, the guy's a genius, and whoever
I mean,
put this
but I'm
together
just saying,
just
like, I'm just saying, like, they did not have that sort of director for GoldenEye. Like, Martin
They
Campbell
definitely
did
had the
not
budget.
do the
I
James
But to be
Cameron.
fair, I mean, even if you go back and watch any of the classic ones, they are supposed to be a little campy, a little cheesy, a lot of
Yeah,
stupid
but
names,
I
and
think they were
on purpose.
cheesy. I think they were cheesy. Well, I think that part of that's just the writing, but I think they were cheesy more because like they were playing up in the time. Like you look at the '60s versions, and they were playing up like the archetype. So the bad guy was like the
Hmm.
super bad guy, and that's kind of like where you see the Doctor Evil character,
Yeah,
right?
well, yeah.
And now they've gotten way more like you know closer to reality with it.
not only that, but in the 60s, you didn't have the resources that you did have in the 90s.
Exactly. So you had to make them
But
like
I
way
think,
over the
yeah,
top to
but
make them
I'm
look.
just saying, like, I think GoldenEye continued that legacy of being campy and everything on purpose. Like, they could have done better, and there were better movies at the time. But if they would have done it, if they would have gone the same action style as Demolition Man or anything else at the time, it wouldn't have felt like a James Bond movie. This feels like a James Bond movie very much, but Doesn't mean it's good.
Please elaborate on that. What does that mean to you to say this feels like a James Bond movie?
Okay, you have ridiculous gadgets. You have the same setup as every James Bond movie. It's one guy going in. He's got all of his super spy gadgets that were made by his special team. Exploding pens and all that stuff.
Oh, remind me to talk about Q for a second.
You got Many Penny. You've got women that are being subjected.
The cast is there
with silly names on a top. Like that's what James Bond movies, I guess, are supposed to be. Like they're supposed to be campy and ridiculous and not exactly the best action films, but they're supposed to be.
They fit a niche, I think, is what you're.
Yeah. They're not supposed to be groundbreaking films. They're supposed to follow a formula that makes you groan a little bit when you watch it.
All right, I can buy that.
I just think people in the 90s had lower expectations.
And I'm going to insult a lot of people here, but I think anybody that is really into James Bond movies in life, in general.
in life, okay. But no, I think
I might cut that.
Like
that's
you said,
pretty bad.
They were following. Well, I mean, I did call
James Cameron autistic.
Yeah,
I was really hoping you meant artistic.
But I mean, no, the man went down and filmed the deep sea for like 2 years in a submersible. He's got
really
like
hoping you meant
I guarantee he owns a train. All right, but like he's amazing. He's a genius. So it's not like I'm saying it in a bad way. But he's very focused in what he does, and he's like groundbreaking special effects, and he's done all kind of research. Like he's crazy. Like James Cameron's done wild things, and I don't think it's fair to put him against whoever this Martin Campbell who made this.
Martin who?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
I couldn't tell you another film this guy's made, and honestly,
they're all garbage. I looked up his IMDb; like they're all like 4.0s after this.
I'm glad that they aren't well known because this was bad enough. Who directed the sequel to this? Tomorrow Never Dies.
Oh, he did do the first Casino Royale with Daniel Craig, though, to his credit.
I think Daniel Craig was a phenomenal James Bond.
Daniel Craig cannot drive a stick shift.
All right, that's embarrassing. I can drive a stick shift.
That they had to make a custom Aston Martin for him because he could not drive a stick shift.
He's not willing to learn or just unable to learn.
I guess at the time he couldn't.
Wow,
if he's learned since.
It took me like a day to learn.
Yeah, I had to for my job. But yeah, like Martin Campbell's made like Vertical Limit, for example. He's made The Mask of Zorro in 2005.
I like those movies.
Or no, that was
also
98.
Campy. Same sort of 90s campy action movie as this.
Yeah, but it's just
my mom loves it. Anything with Antonio Banderas.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's an 80s UK movie producer. So it's just a lot of like blow it up, like Vertical Limit.
I don't know what that is. Is that like a mountain? Is that a climbing movie?
I believe it was. Yeah. It's the one. It doesn't have what's his name? It's got Bill Paxton in it and Chris O'Donnell.
I never saw it.
It was bad.
I have no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, they're climbing. It's either Everest or K2 or something, and they're like, "No, we gotta get up there." It's dumb. But yeah, Chris O'Donnell's in
riveting stuff.
Chris O'Donnell.
Anyway, so what I was gonna, Chris O'Donnell, he's Robin in the George Clooney Batmans.
Oh my gosh!
Anyway,
he's 90s.
So I wanted to say though, like we're talking about people's expectations in the theater. GoldenEye made $350 million, and Mission Impossible made $198 million. So wow. I think the budget has spoken that people really like this kind of film back in the day.
Okay, the legacy was already built.
Yes.
For James
Bond.
Sure,
but like, okay, let's look at how much the second one made.
Into a box, recorded it, called it James Bond, and it would have sold tickets, which is almost what they did.
So Tomorrow Never Dies made $330 million worldwide, making it the fourth highest grossing film of 1997. So people clearly like this enough to go see another one 2 years later with roughly the same amount of money. And once again, I'm not saying that this is better than Mission Impossible, because I happen to very much like Mission Impossible way more than I like
Oh,
GoldenEye.
totally.
Mission Impossible is a great film, but I'm just saying, like, at the '90s box office, popcorn munching, explodey time holiday
That you can take your
bonanza,
kids to.
this is, yeah, well, sure, but the point is that this was a much more, like, easily engaged with the audience film that people wanted to see.
So this is coming from Google, so who knows how verifiable this is, but it says that the Mission Impossible film series has earned over $4.09 billion worldwide. Okay.
Yeah,
So
the series.
yeah, so
Yes.
Mission Impossible film series, just the films. The James Bond is over 7 billion. Okay. So James Bond only made 3 billion more than Mission Impossible, and it has so many more films that it's embarrassing
But
that
but
it
Well,
is
but
so
you also have to
close.
think of the fact that, like, Doctor No came out in
yeah, I was gonna say
1962.
inflation.
It made $50 million. Like, it's not anywhere near the, like, Mission Impossible Zero that came out and made like 800 million in its opening weekend.
Yeah, you're gonna have to take inflation into account for all that stuff.
So if you according to, this is Wikipedia here, if you adjust Doctor No for inflation in 2023, it made $700 million in its opening, basically, or the box office lifetime, rather.
But I still think we're comparing apples to apples here because you have these film franchises that have been going on for so long. Yeah, inflation does matter, and it
If you
does.
look at the sales for the last, say, 10 films of James Bond with the last 10 films or less, whatever, 7 for Mission Impossible that they've made, I would probably say that James Bond's made more money.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we know it's made more money, but also that's kind of the point that I'm making here is that it has made more money, but like you said, the last 10 James Bond films, there's not even 10 Mission Impossible films, and it's only $3 billion less than the highly established universe that is James Bond.
Right. I guess what I want to say is you're comparing Mission Impossible, which came out roughly the same time as GoldenEye. GoldenEye performed way better than Mission Impossible.
I'm not debating that.
Yes.
It did, but it only did so because it was built off the backs of actual talent, not Pierce
Not
Brosnan.
all of them. There were some other bad James Bonds before that.
I guess. I mean, like, because well, but I'm saying, like, the second, Tomorrow Never Dies made 330 billion, and that was released 6 months after Mission Impossible. So I'm just saying, like, Pierce Brosnan films, like, people like him. He's has a career. We might not like him, but people like Pierce Brosnan.
Oh, my mom loves him.
I have nothing. There's nothing that I can say that's going to influence this to get my point across any further.
Oh my, yeah, we are killing a lot of time on this weird.
Whatever. Listen, I don't think you guys understand holiday episodes. It's where I can say unfiltered, stupid things without a formula, and we record it.
That's true. That's true.
Anyway, I wanted to talk about Q really quick. So, Desmond Llewellyn, the guy who played Q, did you know that he was in every Eon, which is the producing company, James Bond film since the inception up until its death?
Maybe.
Yep, he was in like 30 of these things.
Wow.
30?
Well, how many of them are there?
Oh, not there. There's not that many.
There have been 25 produced by Eon.
Oh my God. Okay.
In total.
This only further drives home my point that James Bond is riding off the backs of Sean Connery. Because if they have 25 plus films and Mission Impossible, and I'm not even a huge Tom Cruise fan here, but I'm just saying that it is a much better spy film.
Without a doubt.
Especially with the timeline that it came out, because it was only released a year after this one. The fact that you have so much fewer like established films instead of this universe, like I said, that's been built up for James Bond, like, it's embarrassing. It's only $3 billion more than Mission Impossible. This film sucks, and Pierce Brosnan is a hack. That's all I got to say.
Okay, so anyway, he was Q in 17 James Bond films. So he was in almost every James Bond from the inception up until his death.
That's wildly impressive. I will give him that.
Oh, and so he also persuaded the the original film, Terrence Young, the original director, and the writer, Ian Fleming, he persuaded them to give Q the like traditional upper crust demeanor that you see in all the films, because they originally wanted him to be like this heavy, like Welsh accent that he has like when he's not on screen. So that's a fun thing. And then he was going to be in more of them, but he died. And do you guys think he died of old age?
I'm going to guess alcohol.
No, I don't think alcohol was involved. He was at a book signing and he crashed his car on the way home. He was like 80 something years old.
Can you imagine selling that book right afterwards? Be like, this is the last one that was ever signed by this man.
He and I share a birthday.
Oh.
Oh, that's really neat. Happy birthday.
Yeah, he
Now everybody knows your birthday, Cory.
Well, go ahead. But yeah, he was driving home from a book signing when he crashed his Rene Mignon head on into a Fiat Bravo on the A27 in Sussex.
A Fiat took him out. Oof.
He died at 85. The guy survived, if anyone's wondering.
Well, that's a life well lived.
That is an incredible life well lived.
Yeah, I think that's crazy. Like, he's just like, I'm like 85 years old, coming home from a book signing, car crash. Like,
Fiat.
you all expect him to die of old age. Nope, he had to get taken out by a Fiat.
And the only reason I keep making the jokes about the Fiat, everybody, is because I used to own one. Awful. Awful, awful.
And then Tina Turner did the music for this one. She sings GoldenEye, which, fun fact, Bono and Edge of U2 are the ones that wrote that song.
That's not helping.
You keep calling these fun facts. They are
and
facts.
then we had Judi Dench as M. Well, that's good. And then Robbie Coltrane shows up at one point. That was
Which
fun.
one of you picked this?
I did.
Who do I have to blame for? Oh my god.
To be fair,
Cory,
okay.
This
The
is
movie
horrible.
sucked. It took me like 8 times falling asleep watching it.
We did pick this. We did pick this because we were supposed
to
play the game.
Yes.
And we were.
we started talking about the game because that's where it's at.
We talked about doing this like last New Year's, and we never got around to it.
We did.
So I was like, why don't we do it for New Year's this time?
With all that said, let's take a break. So stick around and enjoy this music from the game. Welcome back, everybody. I hope you enjoy that music. We're going to talk about our memories and our current play of GoldenEye 007 for the N64. So, I want to start off with an actual fun fact, Cory.
All my facts were incredibly fun.
They were not.
What do you have against Desmond Llewellyn?
The club was named after Kevin Lobb, who was Rare's Nintendo side contact at the time that they were making this
game. You mean
game.
the club, like the Clark Club?
No, the
The
club.
club.
Oh, okay.
KLOBB, the club, named after Kevin Lobb.
Okay, I don't know the names of any of the guns, so I will be referring to them as like the silence pistol and the pencil gun.
You were just chock full of disappointment.
Names are, names are just they're not real.
Oh, but Wikipedia says GoldenEye gun list.
So let's talk about the game, guys.
The game guys. What
How,
about the game guys? There's
I
9
know
of
these
them.
guys.
Chris?
What are you
Sorry.
on about?
I think you've mentioned this probably a couple episodes. We played this game at my house on my birthday, like back in
Yeah.
the day.
Man, this game has so much like childhood nostalgia dripping on it. It's not even funny.
I thought Sean was gonna go into a story about like childhood stuff, but he didn't.
I thought Chris was going to talk about it. He keeps bringing it up.
Yeah, well, let's do it.
I don't remember
Then
anything
tell us
about that
about
game.
your
Okay, well, okay.
childhood, Chris.
We did
What's
not
your
play this
favorite curse
this
word?
on your birthday. That was Smash Brothers.
Oh, I thought we did.
No. That's Smash Brothers. But we did play this in your basement. Actually, I remember playing it in your living room.
Okay, continue.
But all my childhood memories of this game are people setting it up, like bringing it to school and playing it in the computer lab. Mike Hedrick and all his friends. I can't remember any other names besides Mike. Maybe there's like a Will in there or something like that. But they were all about it. And
Mike,
And-
Will, Dave on the arm.
this game, I'm probably wrong saying this, but was this the first person console game? Like 3D?
No.
No.
Oh wait, was Turok out at the time? Man, I'm so badly prepared.
I don't have the dates of Turok memorized, but nevertheless, it was definitely not the first 3D.
This game for console exclusive, because I remember like this game came out and Quake and Doom obviously were already out, and I was such a Quake fanboy that like I drew all my comparisons to Quake. I'm like, oh, it's not as good as Quake, it's not as good as Quake, but it's a console game, and I didn't have a 64, so so for the people who did have consoles, like you and people who only had consoles, like this was a groundbreaking game, and I remember going over to sleepovers and playing this game, and the disappointment of when you get to somebody's house and they have the game but they only have one controller. You're like, I guess we'll take turns playing the campaign.
Who had a 64 with one controller?
I'm not going to name drop the last name, but Ryan.
You should have brought your own.
I
You
didn't
should
have
known
one.
that Ryan was a terrible friend. Well, then you are equally implicit in this.
Yeah. I remember renting this game and playing with my little brother because he had a 64. So weekends at my dad's house and playing the 64 and getting this from rentals. Like this game was just amazing. And the fact, like this game also had huge staying power too, because the movie came out in 95, the game came out in 97. 97, we were still in junior high. I don't even remember playing this game at all until high school. And this game was so popular that everybody was playing it all the way through high school. Like this game,
I think we were playing this until Halo
Yeah.
came out, man.
yeah, easily. And yeah, this game had some serious staying power. And I can't think of another game, especially a compy game, where it's, well, actually, I shouldn't say that. First person shooters now kind of do have a lot of staying power. Fortnite's been around forever, and
What did you call it? A copy game? You
compy.
mean like a Doom clone?
Compy.
Compy?
A what?
Competitive.
What do you mean?
What is that?
Competitive?
You're weird.
You guys never heard the word compy?
No.
Please continue.
Anyways, but at the time, this game stuck around, and it was a lot of fun, and it caused a lot of bitterness when people used Odd Job. Cory,
You don't know how to mouse down with your C stick? Get good.
you just said mouse down. We're talking about 64, dude.
Yeah. Okay. Well, aim down with your C stick.
So you mentioned that this game was basically the game to play before Halo, and I fully agree with that. Where, especially console based, everybody played GoldenEye
Mm-hmm.
in that 4-player, couch co-op kind of deathmatch style setting. And it wasn't until Halo that you saw that again in this kind of like grandiose, everybody is
knew it,
doing
yeah.
it kind of thing.
I mean, Halo was really the evolution of the frat boy.
You're not wrong.
Now, as far as memories for this go, I'd say like the direct predecessor or the sequel to this game was Perfect Dark. You guys play that at all?
I did not play Perfect Dark.
Oh man, Perfect Dark was
I did.
amazing.
Perfect Dark was really, really fun, but it required the expansion pack if you wanted to play the multiplayer, which at the time was
Not a lot of
kind of
people,
difficult to get your hands
Oh, I
on.
recognize this box art.
Yeah. It's Perfect Dark is amazing. And I
Same engine,
like
same team.
Perfect Dark more than GoldenEye, but GoldenEye was far more popular.
Yeah. Perfect Dark was GoldenEye with every improvement that they could have added to it, including the multiplayer. Oh, multiplayer for Golden Dark was awesome as well.
Absolutely.
Well, so do we want to mention the fact that like the multiplayer in this game was thrown in as an afterthought?
Yeah, 6 months before the release. I'm sure Sean mentioned it in the notes.
I sure did.
Oh yeah, that history section that just
Yeah.
whizzed right by us.
Yeah, it just flew past you. It was almost like it occurred weeks ago. Talking about my history with GoldenEye, I played this game a lot with John Thompson because he was living with me at the time, and we played everything under the sun. If there was a video game that was coming out at that time, we were probably playing it, but this is a game that we played through not so much multiplayer, but he and I would kind of trade back and forth, trying to set times like early speedrunning before I think anybody called it that for the single player missions.
Oh, because
Just
the
trying
single
to get through these levels as fast as
well,
possible.
and a lot of the rewards in single player came from doing speedruns. Like you unlock stuff based on your time, which was also kind of new for a game to do. Like this game was all about speedruns.
Yeah, well, at the end of every level, it told you exactly how long you took to beat it. So that was something
I was
that
gonna say also the summary of headshots.
Doom did that, didn't it?
yes, Doom did do that, but that was a PC. Well, at the time, a PC game.
You're right. I was just trying to think of games at the time that were doing that.
But did you unlock certain
Doom and
perks or anything
Wolfenstein.
based on your time? Because this game, a lot of unlocks were based
I don't
on
think so.
on hitting those speed times.
No, I don't think Doom did anything like that. But with GoldenEye, it was just fun to go through and just try to beat your previous time. And it's interesting today, like nowadays, when speedrunners are playing this game, they rarely ever look up because the game is so like
You got
poorly
nothing, bro.
optimized, or maybe it's not that it's poorly optimized, but because of the hardware that it's on, it runs much slower if you are looking up. So speedrunners will stare at the ground, and they have been able to
I've heard about
map
that
out.
just to keep.
You have to generate less frames if you're looking at the concrete.
Yeah, I've heard about that. Yeah,
So they increase their FPS by staring at the ground, and they just know how to map through the entire game without ever looking up, except when they absolutely have to.
now couldn't somebody make the argument that doesn't it kind of take the fun out of absolutely everything?
I mean, yeah, but that's not the point. The point is to do it as fast as possible.
Yeah,
Chris.
a lot of things with speedrunning, it almost does kind of take the fun out of it because, well, I don't know. I shouldn't say that.
I'm not playing this to have fun. I'm playing it to go fast.
It's not about entertainment value. It's about being the best.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
want to watch a speedrun of that then.
There's a lot of games that I speedrun where it is almost punishing when you're playing it. You're like, oh my god, I'm not really having fun anymore. But I think if I did this
Here I
just
go again.
a little differently, I could shave off a fraction of a second. So Cory, why don't you tell us about your childhood memories of this game? Did you play it? When did you actually get an N64? Because I know that you were a Sega household.
I didn't get one until my high school years because we went from Sega to PlayStation.
And you said we, like, do you
But,
have brothers and sisters and stuff?
Yeah, Chris, we've already discussed this several times, but you don't remember my family dynamics. But no, yeah, Kyle pushed for the PlayStation when we were growing up because I think it was Final Fantasy Tactics and Final Fantasy VII were like two of the first things we got.
Which are some banger games to get right off the bat.
And Metal Gear Solid.
Oh,
I
yeah.
remember playing that one. Anyway, yes, What was I talking about?
Well, you're talking about the superior spy game, which is Metal Gear Solid, but
Yes.
unfortunately, we're
Anyway,
talking about
so
GoldenEye 007.
we've already discussed that one. But no. So I know my friend Jamie had a 64 console, and I think there was one at Tony's house because I think his stepbrother Max had one. But there were people that had the console available. So GoldenEye was one of those things where like we could all gather around and play this because it was 4 controllers, and we've discussed in the past how the 64 was like the first
And
system
you guys
to
had
do that.
4 controllers?
Um, yeah,
Fancy.
because there were a lot of kids.
Did any of those friends have those Performance 64 controllers?
There were performance ones.
Which one's the
It's called Performance 64, and the logo was like a checkered flag.
No, because we had two good Nintendo controllers, and then we had two
The
of like
stick 50
the
ones?
clear garbage Mad Cats versions.
Oh, Mad Cats. I forgot that they existed there in that time.
Yeah, so we had 264 and two Mad Cats controllers, which horrible third party hardware, but
You really know who your best friends are, or you know
oh yeah,
you know where you
if
rank.
you get handed the Mad Cats controller, you know who you are as a person.
Yeah, you know exactly where the hierarchy of friendship is.
Either that or they're trying to sandbag you because you're too good at the game. So you gotta have the garbage controller.
You just tell yourself that, Corey.
Oh no, I got the good one as much as possible. I was like, please don't give me that one. The button sticks, the controller locks up. Please don't.
But this is the one I'm used to, so I gotta keep using this one. Here, you take this one.
Exactly. I gotta keep, this one's green. It's
Yep.
mine.
This is the only one I use.
I think there are probably like 4 or 5 controllers. I think there were extras floating around because we just brought them with us when we would play. But yeah, it was a lot of party time in the basement, like with the the home console setup, the big CRT television, and a lot of like just playing split screen on like Complex or Temple, and you had the rounds where everyone was playing super competitive, and then you had the rounds where everyone's like slappers only, like let's do something stupid.
So many
And
varieties.
it was one of those, yeah, and like the man with the golden gun, like where you could, one shot, one kill people. So it was a lot of, like who gets there first and who's faster. That was always a fun one because you could just see like how good you actually were. But yeah, this was honestly like the game to play until Halo and Call of Duty 2 came out. I think Call of Duty 2 was the one I'm thinking of.
One of my biggest gripes about this game that they did improve in Perfect Dark, and that they actually had in the Duke Nukem 64, was bots.
Oh,
Did this game have bots? Now that I'm thinking about it, I can't even remember.
I don't.
I don't think
yeah.
it did. No. Nope. I'm the more we're talking about, the more I think that
think there were.
if you wanted to play with a computer, you had to play. I don't think
No,
there were.
I swear I remember setting bots as odd jobs.
There are no bots in GoldenEye 007.
All right, never mind. Then
There
people
you
who
go.
played as odd job were bots.
People who played as odd jobs were just not human to me. I don't like them as people. By the way, if anyone who is listening to this at home has not played this game, the reason that Chris is complaining about Odd Job is because Odd Job is a shorter character and he has a smaller hitbox than every other person. And because this was on the N64 controller, your left hand was the stick, and you basically use that to move forward and backward and strafe around. And then you had to use the 4 buttons on the C-pad on your right hand to look up and down. So, because of the way this was laid out, it was very tedious to look around because you were often using your hands to press the other buttons like reloading, shooting, jumping, and you had to basically stop what you were doing to change your view. And so, a lot of the time, if you were spending your time looking down to aim at Odd Job, he was already shooting you in the gut, and you were having
And
a
you
bad
basically
day.
had to aim at his knee at knee level to shoot him.
You had to pan down to get him in the head, and then like if you were bad, you had to like go way down to the floor.
And I just
to center
remember
mass
people
him.
who actually had the game, who were experienced, would pick him as a joke and then run around with only karate chopping me in the knees because they could.
Yeah, and you would get rolled because you're bad, and you just get chopped in the kneecaps and die.
He should have been like an unlockable, super secret.
Nah, dude, Oddjob was great. Oddjob was
No.
When they came out with this game, they had no idea how competitive this game would,
like
how
we said,
much this game would take
whole
over.
fighting version of this, the whole split screen was an afterthought. It was put in 6 months before release or whatever, and it was thrown in at the last minute. And Rare accidentally made like one of the best co-op or versus games ever made.
Built-in cheat codes. Yeah, they had no idea how huge this game was going to be.
I've never been able to verify it, but I've heard this kind of urban legend that Miyamoto wanted the developers to include a scene at the very end where James Bond would go to the hospital and shake hands with the enemies that he had shot previous to kind of make it less to make it more Nintendo friendly. Yeah. To make it more Nintendo friendly, so it's not like he's just murdering all these people. I don't know. I can't imagine that it would be because it's no less violent than any other game, and there's no blood.
Germany banned sales of GoldenEye for years. Death scenes and perceived glorification of violence were huge sticking points for the country's authorities, especially since it was played by minors. There you go.
I should have known that because I've mentioned in other podcasts about Germany banning specific games. So, yeah. Shouldn't be a shocker there.
My wife has brought up that in her household you were forced to play with cardboard over your head because they were having issues with people cheating with split screen.
Yeah, I'm sure this game was what led people to taping cardboard on their TV screens and making cardboard dividers and stuff like that.
I think honestly, that's just part of the game.
If you get sussed out looking at someone else's screen, that's what the empty 2-liter bottles were for. You would just beat your friends because you could tell they were suddenly much better than what they were 20 minutes ago, and you would just whack them with the Mountain Dew bottles.
I remember with my little brother, I came up with the method of like when I get to a spot, I would turn around and just look down in the corner, so that way he couldn't find me, and then all of a sudden magically it just took him 20 minutes to find me. Whereas before, like if I wasn't doing that,
exactly. If you were looking around, he could tell where you were in the room.
Yeah. So I just got to the point where like
Jamie was a nightmare when it came to that. My friend Jamie, like we could always be like, dude, we know you're cheating.
Is it cheating? If you're looking at someone else's screen, you're not looking at your own.
True,
so you're
but
just
if you
as
see
capable
yourself
of
in their screen, you suddenly know what's happening.
I suppose you're not
It's not
wrong.
cheating because it's a tool that's built into the game that everybody can do.
Called the honor system.
There you go.
It's called skill. My peripheral vision is just better than yours.
Oh yeah, but yeah,
that's funny.
Yeah, this game it brought about many hours of profanity and Pizza Hut.
Should we actually talk about any of the accolades of the game? Like it's the third best selling 64 game.
Well, if you heard the if you heard the history
included
segment,
that,
yeah,
just
that might
right
be
by.
Something I talked about. Just went right over your head. Cory, why don't you start us off and tell us what your thoughts are replaying in 2024?
For those of you at home, there was a whole nother recording that Sean turned off because it was 40 minutes of us talking about stuff without talking about what we're supposed to be talking about. So anyway, my modern day take on this game, it's garbage and I hate it. So I played this on the Switch. I'm assuming you guys did the same thing.
Yeah.
No.
Would you get out at 64?
No, I've been playing on an Xbox.
Oh, okay.
Because the Switch port is awful.
Yeah. So I played this on the Switch.
I tried playing it on the Switch.
It's even worse than I remember it. The controls are horrible. For some reason on the Switch, you can like go, I think it's forward and backwards, but then your camera turns to the left and the right when you're using the joystick. And then the other controller is like this weird up and down angle, and then it's also turning. So it was just a nightmare to look at anything.
Okay. Now for everybody listening, to be fair, the Switch version of this, I shouldn't even call it a remaster. The Switch port of this game is a straight port. So I don't think it is. I don't. It is.
It is not a straight port.
It's not.
Yeah. See, you're wrong because the controllers did not do that in the original 64.
So what I've heard is that when they came out with this game on the Switch, because it came out as part of like the Switch NSO package.
Yeah, the 64 pack.
Yeah. So I've heard that they took the code from the 64, did whatever they needed to do to make it work on the Switch, and released it.
No, because there's way less buttons on a Switch controller. You couldn't do that.
Well, that's why the controls suck, is because they had to make it work with a Switch controller.
So it's not a direct port then.
Oh, well.
It's been remapped. It's horrible.
Okay. But now on the Xbox, the game was rebuilt from the ground up. And it looks like the 64. It looks like the original 64 game and everything. But since it's a rebuild, the controls work on it flawlessly.
Okay, anyway.
There's also the Nintendo Switch N64 controller.
Right.
Which is what I use.
So, and if you have one of those, I've heard it plays great.
Yeah, I played this on a Switch with Switch hardware, and it's an absolute nightmare. And I played most of the game by just running forward and not looking anywhere and just mashing open doors. And I didn't aim. So there is auto-assisted aiming. I noticed that. So if you're shooting in the vicinity of an enemy, it will like automatically assist you by, mousing over them and shooting them in the face or whatever.
When I tried to play it on the Switch, I had to look up YouTube videos, because there are people that like have like the optimal Switch controller settings to make it playable, and it is a lot of work.
If you can't make it playable from the get-go, it's not playable.
Yeah, you have to watch a video and think really outside of the box in order to make it playable with a default Switch controller. And it is.
Yeah,
I think that the default button mapping was almost intentionally bad to encourage people to really think about buying that N64 controller to really relive your childhood.
I would not doubt it if it was like a marketing point. It is terrible.
Well, I did have the N64 controller, and I played through the game, and it's not fun. It's not fun. And you know what? Back in the day, the single player wasn't that fun either.
I liked it.
Well, no, you didn't buy this for the thing. You whatever. It was a mediocre campaign,
exactly.
But you didn't buy this. Mediocre. You didn't buy this for the single player. You bought this because you had 4 friends.
Okay,
and you wanted.
All right,
exactly.
Now I'll argue you guys with that one, because I thought the single player campaign was actually really cool, and back when the only thing you did have to compare it to was Duke Nukem and Quake and stuff, which are much better games, but the campaign mode in this was actually stealthy, and I like.
Was it though?
Well, you could choose to go stealth, but also
you could karate chop people.
Yeah.
There are just areas where you're just forced into gunfights.
But also this game included bullet the sound distance. Enemies would be alerted based on which gun you used, and
your silencer actually mattered.
Yeah, silencers actually mattered. How often you fired your gun actually mattered. Like Apparently, like you could like just one shot with the silencer would not alert people, but if you missed a bunch with the silencer, they'd notice that you're shooting at them.
Well, I think they would also. I don't know if it was this advanced at the time, but I think if you were hitting the terrain near them,
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like you could actually alert the enemies, whereas other games like Doom and Quake and any other first person shooters, like the enemies just knew you were there all the time, and they're always ready to kill you and it'd be an endless swarm. And speaking of, like this game also had NPCs that weren't your enemies. Like there were actually scientists that you weren't supposed to kill, and you're supposed to let them run away and stuff like that. And you could like point your gun at them, and they'd put their hands up and stuff like that. Like this game, the campaign was kind of unique. I did not play a lot of games when I was a kid, especially first person shooters, because I don't think there were a ton that weren't, especially not on PC. But like I thought this game, the campaign was actually fairly unique for the time and to, like very well done. And as much as the movie sucked, it followed the movie plotline fairly well and kind of had the same
That's what
feeling.
I was gonna say, is that it does follow the film fairly closely,
Yeah,
which is impressive because so often it just goes into left field with so many of these cash grab games where it doesn't make any
yeah,
damn
and
sense.
then the characters like 006, like you'd see Sean Bean's face on the character, and
or Scene Bean.
he's seen Bean, seen Bean. You'd see his face, and you know, and you tell him no, don't take the ring, and Pierce
That
Brosnan
is
kind of looked like him, and like
Christ.
I'm just I'd like to give the kudos to the campaign before you guys poop all over it.
I want to bring something up real quick before we get too far away from it. So I mentioned this in the history, but one really unique aspect of the game
Did you?
is that if you are looking through glass, the NPCs, the enemies, are programmed not to be able to see back through it,
Mm-hmm.
but you can. And that was designed so that you can actually feel more like a secret agent as to map out their patterns, their movement patterns, and be like, okay, so I need to move here and now in order to get through if you're playing a more stealthy mission.
So I mean, and that just goes back to what I was saying, like the fact that you could choose to be stealthy or choose to go in gun blazing. You could kind of play this game how you wanted to. The map sizes were actually really impressive. Um, my only comparisons for first person shooters were, Star Wars, Doom, and Quake, and I don't remember maps being nearly.
Oh, dude, there are a lot of FPS games by this point. That's some really big maps.
Definitely, yeah. I suppose you're right.
In consoles, you're not finding something.
Consoles, not so much. I still can't think of any other console games that were on this level at all, especially when it first dropped. But even like overall,
Are you talking multiplayer or single player? Because
both.
okay, both. There's a lot better single player games, even on the
Like
N64,
what?
when it comes to first person shooters. Turok,
Yeah, but I think
those games were a lot
I think
better.
that was the first. I think that was the only game I could think of that maybe beat this game out.
Duke Nukem, I think Duke Nukem is a better game
That was not console though.
than
That
this.
was PC, and then it got
It
ported over.
it absolutely okay, but here it is on the Nintendo 64.
What year?
Oh my god, why do you do this to me?
Yep. Because
Duke
I'm saying
Nukem.
when this was released, I think it did a lot of ground paving for console gaming.
It came out in 1997,
So same year,
same year.
and that was a port.
I mean,
So it
yeah.
had most of the work done for it already.
I mean, but like there are also other systems too. Like,
I'm just saying. I'm also a little bit of a Rare fanboy too, so I'm defending Rare.
I don't think Rare needs any defending because it's a great game by a great franchise, and it's sad that they're like a Microsoft subsidiary now.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it. I mean, this is around. I think the first console first person shooter that I can see was Descent, basically. But you had plenty of games that came out near this release date that were doing a lot of good work.
I think we saw some good variety.
I think much like the films, that if it hadn't been built off the back of other much better films, GoldenEye would be nothing. Same with this game. It's not that great of a game, and the fact that the multiplayer was fun
multiplayer is
is
what
really
saved it,
the
yeah.
only reason that this game is talked about today.
And I think good proof of that is the fact that I won't call it Dark Eye. What's it called?
Perfect Dark.
Perfect Dark, thank you. That game was not nearly as famous as GoldenEye, and it was the same engine and everything, and even improved upon.
It's so much
And
better.
it's so much better, and that game was fantastic. And nobody talks about Perfect Dark unless you're in the know for it. So yeah, I would agree. Like the franchise definitely helped it out.
And the fact that it just kind of happened at the perfect time to be that couch co-op where all your friends could sit down together and play the game and have fun.
I still think it's crazy the game came out 2 years after the movie did, and was still that successful.
Well, it came out right before the sequel to GoldenEye.
But
So
I don't think that was planned. I think it came out that late due to all the hiccups. Like it wasn't released as a hype for the movie.
I agree. Well, guys, I think that we hit both our childhood and current day of both the film and the game. So let's take a break. We'll come back. And I think we kind of already talked about our final thoughts. So we'll just kind of have a smaller segment where we just kind of wrap this up. And we will close it out from there.
Sounds fantastic.
All right. So stick around and enjoy this music. All right, welcome back, everybody. This is our last segment. So normally we do our final thoughts of the game, but we've really talked to death what we thought about both the game and the film. So instead, we're going to talk about recommendations.
Wait. We
Chris,
didn't talk about the soundtrack for this game at all, which is still memely famous. I just now remember that.
Okay, well,
10 out
what
of
do you
10
wanna
for the
say about
soundtrack for the game.
Okay.
I'm done. Okay, that's all that needed to be said.
Are you saying the soundtrack or the pause
The
music?
pause, yeah, it's basically the pause music, because that's all anybody cares about.
Yeah, so I'd say the soundtrack as a whole is just pretty mediocre music, but for some reason
The pause,
the pause music is just phenomenal.
famous, yeah. That is ridiculously.
Anyway,
But Chris, would you recommend the film today, and would you recommend the game
the film
today?
was so awful. Please, I'm so glad. I tried to ask my wife if she wanted to watch it with me. She's like, "Oh, so glad she didn't." That would have it's so bad it would have upset the marriage if I would have made her watch that with me. So
Wow, yeah, that's pretty bad.
yeah, it was bad. You watched it too? It was awful.
Yeah, but saying that it would cause you to require marriage counseling.
I didn't say that. I just said
GoldenEye destroyed my marriage.
I definitely would have owed her one after that. After making her sit through that.
So that's a no. What about the game?
I would not make her play the game either. But I would definitely, if somehow I magically was at a get together with 3 buddies and I could bust out 64 with 4 controllers and do some split screen, quad screen multiplayer, I would totally do the multiplayer. I would not recommend anybody to play the single player game, Well, the multiplayer, if a family function happened to pop up, or the three of us were all meeting up for a slumber party, I would totally be down for some multiplayer of this.
A slumber party.
As a matter of
All
fact,
right, Cory.
weren't we talking about trying to find a time to play this
Yeah,
against
the
each other,
slumber
but that
party?
just never
Yeah.
happened?
Yeah, we were, and then you were like, "I have no time. I'm dying."
Well, it sounds like you want
Yeah,
to play it anyways because
you kept getting the plague.
and spreading it.
Dude, it was really bad.
Well,
Plague
Cory,
spreader.
what about you? What about the film and the game? What are your
Oh, the
recommendations?
film is garbage. I already think I made that clear. It's
Hot
I don't
garbage.
I can't even recommend it as like a campy goof because it's too serious of a film.
It definitely takes itself seriously though, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like if you wanted to watch it, just be like, haha, James Bond's blowing stuff up, but it's not even that lowball to let it do that. So you couldn't do that. But yeah, it's the film's terrible. Whatever. If you really like James Bond, I guess watch them all. But it's middle bottom of the list as far as those films go. Um, the game the game just didn't hold up, honestly. I feel very sad to say it, but it's not good. Um if there were some outlandish scenario in which we could play this co-op just to have like a nostalgic happy fun time, I would love to do it, but I would also be doing that on a 64. I would not want to play this
And
on
you'd pick
Switch
Oddjob.
because yeah, well, yes, but I would not want to play this on Switch because it's just so bad.
If you have a
It's just
chance, Cory, if you have a chance to play
I'm
on
not going to put
on
the
Game
effort
Pass
in.
on
No, I don't
PC
care.
or an Xbox,
Nope, don't care.
I want you to at
enough.
least see the difference between how well the
care
controls
enough.
are done on
Not
Microsoft
care
on
enough.
Xbox.
But yeah, so anyway, no, it's just bad. It's not good. It's very sad because we all have such great memories of this title, and it was such a benchmark thing for us to do as children, but it's not a good game. It's very poorly optimized. It looks like garbage, and it plays very badly. So I can't recommend it to anyone in good faith.
I think your thoughts really mirror mine. I also agree. I would not recommend that film to anyone. It's simply not good. Pierce Brosnan is the worst James Bond.
Or
And the game
a lot of
itself,
flack today.
he deserves it. And the game is just not fun anymore. It didn't age well. It should not have been brought into the 2020s. It just did not hold up like so many other games do hold up. So we've already beat this horse to death, so I think that's kind of wrap everything up. Let's talk about our next game, which is going to be Killer Instinct for the Super Nintendo. Chris, Cory, thank you guys so much for eventually, it took a while, but eventually we got together. We finished this show. And all of you out there, thank you so much for taking the time to listen. I'm sorry that we didn't get this out for the holidays, but we will try to be a little better when it comes to our schedule of getting these episodes out to you. So thank you for continuing to listen to us. Chris, Cory, you got anything?
Happy holidays.
Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, whatever you got, holiday time. Hope you all had a great year. Hope 2025 is a good year. Having a lot of good time. We'll still be here talking about stupid stuff for you.
Well said. Happy holidays to you all out there. Thank you so much. We've been Superannuated Starman.
Swing ding 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 swing ding 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 ding.
Dun, 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 dun.
Swing ding 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 ding. I know he's disappointed. You better not cut any of this. This is all gold. GoldenEye.